Discover the incredible transformation, inside the 12 most heartwarming luxury prisons exposed. Jake Thompson read those words on his phone, the sensationalized headline almost making him laugh out loud. Luxury prisons? Heartwarming transformations? In a world where he struggled to find a job, that idea felt absurd. He couldn't help but imagine the glitzy write-ups and polished images showcasing places that sounded more like resorts than places of penance. But curiosity gnawed at him, and in the middle of another sleepless night, he clicked the link, drawn into a world he'd never considered before. As he scrolled through the article, his heart began to ache. Pictures of inmates learning trades, forging new paths in bright workshops flooded his mind with warmth. There was something powerful about their stories about redemption and opportunity, even for those who had stumbled. It reminded him of his own struggles back in his small Midwestern hometown, where the factory he worked at had closed its doors, leaving him not just jobless but feeling empty. The laughter of his children dimmed under the weight of unfilled dreams, and the smell of grilled meat at neighborhood barbecues seemed to sting more than it once did. One desperate Saturday, Jake made his way to a nearby luxury prison he had read about. What he found blew him away. The vibrancy, the compassion from the staff, their unwavering dedication to rehabilitation. It felt almost surreal. Here, a former gang member was mastering woodworking, crafting furniture that would soon find a place in homes outside those prison walls. The inmates shared stories of family and the hope of reuniting. Their eyes gleamed with possibility. It stirred something deep inside Jake. Could there be a way out of his financial hole, a path back to pride? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Fueled with fresh inspiration, Jake returned home, eager to talk to his neighbors about the program he believed could uplift them all. He approached them at the diner, over coffee and pie, but instead of nods of agreement, he was met with glances of distrust. "What are you saying, Jake?" they asked, questioning how anyone could deserve a luxury treatment behind bars. Anger soon flared, and he found himself defending this vision of hope, urging them to see beyond their fears. But as discussions turned heated at town hall meetings, friendships frayed. Jake stood at the front, voice trembling, conviction unfaltering. Don't we want a community rebuilt on understanding? On second chances? But the embers of prejudice burned fiercely, threatening to consume even the most steadfast hearts. As the days passed, something threatening loomed. A heartbreaking incident rocked their small town, marking an unexpected twist that shook Jake to his core. Now, he found himself at a crossroads. Would he be able to heal the rift in his community and inspire them toward forgiveness? Or would the darkness of division keep them locked away from the light of opportunity? His dreams of unity dangled precariously as he prepared to confront not just the community's resistance but his own beliefs about justice and redemption. The hope he discovered was now on the line, and somehow, he had to keep it alive. The town meeting buzzed with tension. Jake could feel it in the air, thick and heavy. The city council had called for an emergency session after the incident, a bar fight that had escalated, involving a former inmate from the luxury prison he had visited. Names were thrown around, accusations flew. The local gossip spread like wildfire, feeding prejudices as people took sides. As Jake sat at the front of the room, he gripped the edge of the table, his knuckles turning white. He wasn't sure if it was fear or fury that had him feeling this way. Why couldn't everyone just see it? The transformation was possible, even for those who had gone astray. They weren't criminals, they were people, with stories as complicated as their own. "I don't care what happens in that prison," shouted Mr. Henderson, red-faced from anger. "You think just because they are learning trades, they're changed? That's just a way to keep them off the streets." The room erupted in agreement, murmurs and shouts echoing. Jake's heart sank. This wasn't what he had envisioned. He had hoped for understanding, for a chance to show them how people could change. Mr. Henderson, Jake started but hesitated. Would they listen? He took a breath, feeling the warmth of the crowd's disapproval wash over him. You have to realize that everyone deserves a chance. I saw these inmates, I talked to them. They want to change. Don't we owe them the opportunity to prove it? The council members shifted uncomfortably. Sam, a longtime friend turned adversary, shook his head. You're naive, Jake. You're gonna fall for their sob stories, and we'll be the ones paying the price if you get it wrong. Stop it. Just stop. Jake couldn't hold back any longer. The passion swelled within him. What are we doing here? We say we want to be a better community, but we're too scared to even give each other a chance. Isn't that what this country is about? Silence filled the room as Jake's voice echoed softly, thick with emotion. This wasn't just about the prison anymore. It was about who they were as humans, as neighbors. Mr. Henderson looked lost, confusion flashing on his face. You really believe they can change? I saw it with my own eyes, Jake replied, his voice steady. People can transform if given just a glimmer of hope. That's what we need, hope. For us, for them. It felt like a small spark of light in the encroaching darkness of fear. Friends began mumbling, pondering. There was a shift, a tiny breeze in a heatwave, then, just as hope began to weave its way through the crowd, Jake's phone buzzed in his pocket loud and disruptive. He fumbled for it, and the news headline flashed across the screen, Crime Wave Hits Small Town. Former inmate suspected. Gasps erupted. Eyes turned toward him, assessing. Now he both had their attention and felt the heavy weight of responsibility. What if everything he had fought for crumbled because of this? The fragile connection he felt between him and his neighbors was at risk, teetering on the edge of collapse. The threat of lost hope loomed larger than before. Is it going to be like this forever? He thought in earnest. Will fear always win? As he wheeled to face the crowd, searching their faces for a thread of understanding, Jake realized this was just the beginning, and he couldn't turn back now. He had to dig deeper, spur real change, and confront not just the community but the roots of their fear. What if the darkness closing in on them was something they could fight together? Would they find a way to heal, or would this be the moment they lost everything he had believed in? The air seemed to crackle with potential, and Jake knew that the next chapter in his life and in his community was about to unfold. The murmurs in the room grew louder, turning into a swell of discontent. Jake instinctively stepped back, feeling the eyes of the crowd like a weight pressing down on him. He stood before them, their expressions a mix of doubt and fear. He clenched his fists, struggling to find the right words. Listen, Jake said, trying to cut through the tension. We can't let a headline dictate how we see people. This is about real lives. It's easy to label someone a criminal. It's harder to see them as a human being with the chance to change. But what if you're wrong, Jake? Someone in the back shouted. What if they're just pretending? We can't put our families at risk. His heart raced. He understood their fears all too well, but he also knew that clinging to fear wouldn't bring them solace. What if, he countered, we're the ones risking something far more valuable? Our humanity? Our ability to forgive and understand? The lights overhead flickered, and it felt like the room was holding its breath, waiting for a sign. Strangely, an urge bubbled within him. He needed to show them, to illustrate the potential he had witnessed behind prison walls. Perhaps he could share another story, one that encapsulated the true spirit of transformation. Let me tell you about a woman I met in prison, he began, sensing the crowd lean in. Her name is Maria. She had made mistakes, bad ones. But there was a fire in her eyes. She worked hard, spent hours learning and growing. When she left, she didn't just walk out a changed woman. She started her own business, helping others like her to reintegrate, to find purpose. Skepticism lingered, but there was a shift. Jake could see it in the faces of those listening. Some were sharing glances, weighing their stitched-together thoughts against his story. And she's not alone, Jake pressed on. Before her, there were so many. I met men and women with regrets but also with determination. They're just waiting for a chance that we control. Will we give them that shot, or will we keep them in the shadow of our fear? A throat cleared, and it was Sam again, voice dripping with doubt. But those are exceptions. What about the ones who go back to old habits? Every time we focus only on the dark, we block out the light. Jake shot back, his passion spilling over. We need to be the ones who believe in the possibility. If we don't embrace it, we'll never know the truth of their potential. The council members exchanged looks, and slowly, Jake's words began to weave through the crowd like a breeze stirring dried leaves. It was subtle, but for the first time, he sensed a willingness to question their fears. But just then, a loud crash echoed from the back of the room, cutting through the emerging energy. A chair toppled over, and a woman rushed to the front, her face pale. Something's happened. She gasped, breathless. It's in the news. People are panicking outside the store. There's talk of more violence, more crime. The collective gasps turned into chaos, voices rising as they flooded the room with anxiety and urgency. Fear twisted like a dark tide. Jake felt his heart drop. This wasn't the way he envisioned changing hearts. The moment he had been building started to unravel. As people scrambled to find answers, Jake stood frozen, the weight of his vision colliding with the frenzy surrounding him. Would he fight against this rising storm, or would he watch the light of hope flicker and fade? He took a step forward, ready to speak again, but uncertainty chilled him to the bone. How could he guide them when everything felt so precarious? In that moment, one undeniable truth flickered in his mind: this battle was far from over. He had to gather the strength to stand against both fear and chaos. But how? Facing the room, Jake whispered to himself, I can't let this be the end. The chaos around him just breathed louder. And suddenly, the question loomed large: could he rally his community now, when it mattered the most? Jake's heart thudded louder than the chaos swirling around him. He looked at the faces, each one a reflection of the turmoil in his own mind. They were searching for answers, fearful of what might unfold, and in that moment, he felt a shift within himself, a flicker of purpose igniting against the overwhelming tide of worry. Everyone, please. He called out, raising his voice to drown the clamor. Listen to what I have to say. The room quieted, but the weight of anxiety clung to the air. He continued, heart racing, I know it feels like the walls are closing in. But I've seen what happens when people are touched by a bit of hope. Just think about it. Maria didn't just change for herself, she inspired others. If she can do it, so can we. Somewhere in the crowd, a woman with tear-streaked cheeks caught his eye. Her expression was caught between doubt and yearning for something greater. But they could hurt us. We can't risk our safety. She cried out, her voice shaking. Jake took a deep breath, searching for the right words. And what if our safety lies in connection, in understanding? He shot back. What if by keeping our hearts locked tight, we only build more walls around ourselves? I know it's scary. I know it feels safer to shut the door. But real strength is in opening it. The tension lifted just a fraction, hope peeked through the cracks of anxiety. He turned toward the windows, gesturing toward the world outside. Look out there. The street isn't just filled with danger. It's also bursting with possibilities. We're part of this community. If we band together, we can transform it. He could feel the air vibrating with thoughts and emotions, the murmurs, the stirring of concern, the silent questioning. The council members were glancing toward each other, trying to gauge the shifting atmosphere. And yes, some will falter, Jake continued, pushing forward. But it's our responsibility to stand beside them. We can help create pathways for change. We can offer guidance and support. Imagine a neighborhood where fear is replaced by understanding. A hand shot up from the back, the voice steady but hesitant. And how do we do that, Jake? How do we keep our families safe while we embrace this? That's the beauty of it. He replied, letting his warmth seep into his words. By working together, we share the load. We create watch groups, safe spaces, mentoring programs. It's not just about reintegration, it's about working as a whole to lift each other up. The hesitant mother nodded, her brow unfurrowing. Jake's heart soared a little higher. He felt them begin to lean in. Faces that were once clouded with doubt now reflected a flicker of possibility. Then the door burst open, and a panicked young man rushed in. "They're threatening to close the school," he blurted, breaths coming in ragged gasps. "They say it's the criminals' fault. They want to keep them out, to keep us safe." The weight of his news hit the room like a punch. Conversation sputtered into chaos again, voices rising in panic. Jake's heart sank, but he wouldn't let despair swallow him whole. "No!" he shouted, regaining control. "This is exactly what I mean. We cannot let fear dictate our actions. We need that school. We need to keep our kids in a safe and nurturing environment." But even as he rallied the crowd, an undeniable worry lodged in his chest. Was this storm too powerful to weather? Were they ready to take that leap of faith, to stand for something greater than fear itself? Jake scanned the room, searching for a glimmer of resolve in their eyes. There, at the edge, he saw sparks of understanding, small, but they were there. Now the question was clear: could they unite in the face of a growing threat and transform their fear into strength? As hope blossomed, Jake thought, how far could it go? The chatter in the room swelled, confusion knitting tight faces. Jake pressed on, his heart hammering with urgency. "Listen. Our kids deserve better. They deserve a school that's a refuge, not a target." Then he noticed someone new in the back, a gray-haired woman with kind eyes, her fingers intertwined nervously. It was Mrs. Thompson, the beloved librarian who spent years nurturing the minds of children. Jake felt a tug of connection. If she was here, then others would rally too. "Mrs. Thompson," he called out, hoping to draw her into his vision, "what do you think? Don't you believe we should fight for our kids' education?" She stepped forward, gathering the courage to speak. "We always told the kids the library is a safe place. It's where they explore, where they learn." Her voice cracked. "If we close the school, we're telling them their dreams don't matter." The murmurs shifted again, a ripple of agreement spreading through the crowd. Jake could see it, they were starting to remember what truly mattered: their children. The room vibrated with renewed energy. "Yes," Jake encouraged, feeling a surge of hope. "Let us not just think about the school, let us think about the community. We can launch a petition, hold a rally, engage with local leaders. We won't let fear strip us of our future." A tall man stepped forward, his brow furrowed as he raised a hand in his defense. "But what about the dangers? We can't ignore the realities. Some of those kids come from violent backgrounds." Jake nodded, appreciating the raw honesty. "You're right. We can't turn a blind eye. But does pushing them away really solve anything? Or does it deepen the divide?" The room fell silent, each person grappling with the weight of that question. The woman with tears in her eyes whispered, "What if we try to help them? What if we give them a chance?" "Yes," Jake shouted, sensing the shift. "By offering support, we can change the narrative. We create a bridge rather than a wall. Isn't that what our community stands for?" A teenage girl in a corner, once obscured by shadows of doubt, brightened. "I can help organize a youth committee. We can meet with our peers and learn to listen to their stories. Together, we can create a safe environment." The energy surged, and people began bending closer, eager to contribute their ideas. A teenager stood up. And we can set up mentorship programs too. Help them with schoolwork, sports. For the first time, Jake felt the cloud of despair lifted somewhat. A round of applause erupted, drowned in laughter and excitement. He could hardly believe it. The walls were crumbling, and unity was taking their place. But then, a looming question flashed across the room, casting a shadow. How would they confront the council? What if they dismissed their efforts or threatened to close them down for good? Sensing the hesitation again, Jake knew they had to channel this energy into action. Let us meet again tomorrow, gather ideas, and make a real plan. This isn't just about the school, it's about our future, our community. We're all in this together. As the applause filled the air, Jake felt an unfamiliar weight on his chest, a mix of hope and dread. Would tomorrow bring more than just words? Would it lead them into the path of actual change? With determination, he watched as bodies shifted and plans began to take shape around him. It felt monumental, full of promise, but uncertainty still lurked just out of sight. As the crowd began to disperse, one question lingered in Jake's mind. Would they truly gather the courage to face what lay ahead, and what sacrifices would they have to make to truly reclaim their community? The next day, the community center buzzed with anticipation. Chairs were arranged like a makeshift auditorium as families began to trickle in. Jake arrived early, his heart racing at the prospect of turning yesterday's excitement into action. The warm afternoon sun streamed through the windows, casting optimistic patches of light on determined faces. Jake greeted familiar faces as they found their seats. Mrs. Thompson entered, her presence commanding the room's attention. "I hope you all remembered," she said, her voice steady. "This is the start of something wonderful." Jake took to the front, a careful eye scanning the growing crowd. "Thank you all for coming back. Yesterday, we started to dream. Today, we make those dreams real." He sensed a pulse of enthusiasm, a collective heartbeat of determination. Hands shot up, eager to contribute. The teenage girl from the previous meeting, Emily, stood, her passion evident. What about creating a community garden? It could teach kids responsibility and provide food for those in need. A ripple of applause followed, and Jake nodded. Perfect. It's all about creating opportunities. As each idea flowed, from art programs to after-school workshops, Jake felt a warmth spread through him. The community was not just brainstorming, they were building a vision of hope. It was exhilarating and, for the first time in a long time, Jake could see a path forward, yet, the ghosts of doubt lurked in the corners. "We still have to confront the council," a voice said, steady but worried. "What if they don't listen? What if they shut us down before we even begin?" Jake paused. "We can't let fear dictate our actions. They may see this as a risk, but we have to show them how much our kids mean to us, how much our community matters." His voice steadied with conviction. "Together, we'll gather our voices. But we cannot be just a loud crowd, we need to present a united front. Professional, prepared." He turned to Mrs. Thompson. "Can you help us write a proposal? Something that details our vision and the community's support?" She smiled, her earlier nervousness fading. "Of course, but we'll need stories. Real ones from families affected." Jake's heart swelled. "Yes. We need to humanize our mission, to show them it's not just numbers or statistics. It's our lives. Let us reach out, collect testimonies, and include our youth committee. Everyone has a voice in this." The crowd murmured with agreement, excitement sparking visibly in their eyes. Relationships were forming, tension dissolving. They felt like a family, united by purpose rather than divided by fear. As the gathering began to wrap up, Jake announced the next step. "Let us all meet again tomorrow to share stories and refine our proposals. We'll show the council just how powerful we can be." With warmth spreading in his chest, Jake realized this was beyond just a school. They were building community, bridging divides, healing wounds. As families began to disperse, a girl approached Jake, her eyes wide with hope. What if they still don't listen? What if it takes time? Her question hung in the air, heavy yet charged with the responsibility of their task. Jake took a deep breath. Then we keep fighting. For every child, every dream. We won back down. That resolve shone through him, but okay, that shadow of uncertainty still flickered. Would their voices truly be heard? Would they find a way to hold the council accountable, or would their aspirations fizzle like a deflated balloon in the wind? As he stepped outside into the setting sun, Jake wondered if they had the stamina to see this through or if the challenges ahead would break their resolve. Would their first meeting with the council be the moment of truth they were all secretly dreading? The next day dawned with anticipation crackling in the cool morning air. Jake arrived at the community center earlier than usual, his mind racing with thoughts of the upcoming council meeting. The sun glinted through the tall windows, illuminating the empty chairs that would soon be filled with passionate voices. Families began to filter in, and the atmosphere brimmed with nervous energy. Jake caught sight of Emily, who had been instrumental in bringing ideas to life. She sat, sketching plans for the community garden on a scrap piece of paper, her brow furrowed in concentration. Seeing her focused, Jake smiled. Her enthusiasm was contagious. As more people gathered, the familiar cadence of small talk filled the room. Jake took a deep breath and faced the crowd, a mix of excitement and apprehension sparkling in their eyes. "Thank you all for coming back," he began, his voice gaining strength. "Today, it's time to craft our stories. We need to show how creating a space for our children isn't just important, it's essential." Mrs. Thompson chimed in, "Let us start by sharing how our lives are intertwined with this community. Each story is a thread in the tapestry we are weaving together." Hands began to raise, and voices emerged. One by one, they shared their experiences, struggles, triumphs, hopes. A father spoke about his son, who had found purpose volunteering at the local food bank, while a mother spoke of the long nights she spent alone, wishing for a safe haven for her kids. Jake listened, his heart swelling. Each narrative was a testament to resilience, each word a stepping stone toward change. As the stories spilled out, Jake noticed the crowd leaning in, captivated by their shared experiences. Then, a voice rang out, shaky yet fervent. It was a grandmother, her eyes shiny with tears. "I lost my daughter last year. My grandkids deserve a place to heal and grow. We need this for them." Gasps rippled through the room. Jake felt a deep ache echoing in his chest. It was a reminder of the stakes and the heartbreaking responsibility they carried. When she finished, silence hung in the air. Jake stepped forward, wiping his eyes. "Thank you for sharing that with us. It's stories like yours that remind us of our purpose. We're not just asking for a garden or programs. We are asking for a better future for our children." Inspired, they began integrating each individual testimony into a coherent proposal. Ideas flowed like water, turning into graphics, catchy slogans, and impactful testimonies. Hours ticked by unnoticed, as their combined energy ignited hope. As the meeting concluded, Jake and Mrs. Thompson exchanged glances, an understanding passing silently between them. They were on the brink of something significant, but just as they felt themselves gaining momentum, another community member raised a hand, uncertainty creeping back in. "What if the council rejects our proposal outright?" The room fell silent again, fear creeping into the fabric of their progress. Jake could sense doubt spreading like wildfire. He straightened himself, pulling together courage he didn't know he possessed. "If they do, we don't give up. We adapt. We strengthen our message. We rally more voices. We are not here asking for permission. We're demanding a seat at the table." A wave of agreement rippled back. But behind his conviction, Jake felt a familiar fear whispering. What if their fight was in vain? What if their dreams shattered at the hands of indifference? He cast a glance towards Emily, who nodded, her expression fierce. That spark ignited hope within him. I want to see every one of you at the council meeting. Let us make it impossible for them to ignore us. Jake declared. Determination shimmered in the air. As they rolled up their sleeves, energy was palpable once more. But in Jake's mind, doubts loomed large. Would they truly be strong enough to face the council? Would their shared stories make an impact, or would they fall on deaf ears? The day was filled with hope, but deep inside, Jake knew a confrontation was brewing on the horizon. Would they be ready for the storm? Only time would tell. The days leading up to the council meeting raced by, each one stretching the tension thin enough to snap. Jake found himself replaying snippets from the last meeting over and over, from the grandmother's haunting declaration to the defiant resolve that had washed over the room like a wave. Fear and hope danced in his gut, as familiar as an old friend yet overwhelming in their clash. On the night before the meeting, he sprawled on his couch, looking up from the countless notes he'd scribbled. The living room was dim, the glow of his tablet casting shadows against the wall. He glanced down, frowning at his notes. He had a rough outline of their proposal, powerful wording meant to connect the emotional stories shared, yet doubt lingered. What if it's not enough? He muttered to himself. It felt like every phrase carried the weight of potential failure. Suddenly, a knock came at his door, breaking the thick cloud of uncertainty. It was Emily, her usual calmness punctuated with urgency. Jake, we need to talk. I've got something. He barely managed to usher her inside before her enthusiasm bubbled over. I've been working on visuals for our proposal. What if we display their stories alongside photos of our community? It would create a connection like nothing else. As she pulled out a stack of vibrant images, children playing in the park, families at the farmer's market, heartwarming candid moments, Jake felt a spark. Emily had always had a way of lighting the path ahead when he felt lost. Together, they spent the late hours piecing her insights with the words he had conjured earlier. It's not just a proposal, he said, grappling with a sense of urgency. It's a declaration of who we are as a community. As dawn broke on the day of the meeting, Jake stood before the mirror, adjusting his collar. The reflection staring back at him was a mix of the hopeful leader he wanted to be and the fearful citizen he felt inside. You can do this, he whispered, his own voice a shaky reassurance. The community center was buzzing with energy when he arrived, the atmosphere brimming with nervous chatter. A quick glance around showed that many familiar faces had come, friends and neighbors who now shared the weight of the same dream. Jake took a deep breath, ensuring he remembered each story that had been shared. The sacrifices, the joys, the unwavering need for a safe space for their children echoed in his mind, fueling him. They gathered in a circle, exchanging last-minute words, and when the time came, Jake stepped forward. Today, we're not just asking for approval. We are demanding recognition for our collective story, our growing children, and our shared future. His heart raced as he noticed the eyes raptly focused on him. He glimpsed Emily nodding, her belief in this mission evident, and it steadied him. As they filed into the council chamber, a mix of excitement and fear surged through the crowd. The room was quieter than expected, tension palpable as council members took their seats, looking down at the stacks of paper and proposals, but as Jake started to present, a council member interjected abruptly, her voice cutting through his words. What makes your story any different from the others we've heard before? Time froze as silence engulfed the room. Jake felt an icy wave of doubt washing over him again. He couldn't let his fears take over now. What came next would either shatter their dreams or lay the groundwork for something truly powerful. He locked eyes with Emily, who mouthed, "You've got this." Drawing strength from her and the voices behind him, Jake prepared to answer that question. He could feel the pulse of possibility and fear merging into one single moment. Could he turn this moment into an opportunity? Would now be the time when their dreams started to take shape, or would they slip right through their fingers? The air was thick with anticipation as he gathered his thoughts, ready to confront the council head-on. Jake's heart pounded, each beat echoing a question in his mind. How could he articulate the depth of their community's story in that one fleeting moment? He took a deep breath, steadied his trembling hands, and spoke clearly, deliberately. "I understand your skepticism," he began. "But that question itself speaks to why we're here, why this meeting matters. Our story isn't just about us, it's about a community that's tired of being divided. It's about a chorus of voices that, despite hardship, has come together to demand a future we can share." Whispers threaded through the crowd. He could sense curiosity mingling with doubt, a fragile atmosphere that felt both daunting and empowering. The council member looked skeptical but intrigued. "It's not just about one family, or a few faces," Jake continued, his voice gaining strength. "The proposal we are laying down today doesn't simply ask for space, it manifests our resilience, our hope, and our determination to build a safe haven for our families. Each photograph represents not just a moment, but a life, a heartbeat that connects us all." His words seemed to hang in the air. He gestured towards the visuals. Emily painstakingly prepared each image vibrant, alive with laughter, struggle, and love. "Here. Look at these faces. They are the essence of our story. Look closer, and you will see the dreams we have for our children. Look at the smiles, the sun-soaked afternoons, they embody the future we aspire to create together." The council room shifted slightly. A few council members exchanged glances. He pressed on, unwilling to let this chance slip away. "We stand here not just for our desires but to encourage a partnership with you, our city, our elected leaders. Together, we can transform these dreams from mere ideas into reality. We can bridge the gaps that we've allowed to fester for far too long." His voice softened, revealing the vulnerability beneath his passion. "I ask you, if this community that has experienced both joy and heartbreak can rise, then why can't we all rise with it? This isn't merely our proposal, it's a lifeline for everyone." Silence draped itself over the room. Jake could see Emily's eyes glistening, encouraging him to keep going. He believed now that maybe, just maybe, he could turn doubt into hope. As he finished, he could see the wheels turning in the minds of the council members. A moment of contemplation, maybe even empathy. Yet, the tension was still thick as a fog. Would this spark connect them or push them further apart? A councilman finally spoke. "What commitments are you prepared to make to ensure this is more than just words?" Jake's heart dropped for a moment, but then another thought sparked inside him. This was at the moment to solidify their resolve. "We're committed to transparency. We will engage the community, gather feedback, and adapt every step of the way. Our end goal is not just a space, it is a collective empowerment." The council seemed to weigh his words. The audience held its breath. Could the tides of uncertainty finally be shifting? Then, suddenly, the door swung open. In walked a family, a mother, father, and 2 children. Their arrival disrupted the meeting, offering an unexpected twist. They stood before everyone, visibly emotional yet determined. "I hope we're not too late," the mother said, her voice trembling. "We have a story to share." Jake exchanged glances with Emily, both stunned and intrigued. He could feel the pulse of the room change again, buzzing with renewed energy. What would this new family add to their unfolding narrative? The air crackled with possibility. Jake took another deep breath, ready to embrace whatever might come next. The mother stepped forward, her eyes bright with tears that seemed to mingle with the sunlight streaming through the windows. "We've heard about the proposal," she began, her voice quivering but steady. "My husband and I moved here looking for a fresh start, but our past haunts us. We know the struggles and the judgment." She paused, glancing at her partner before continuing. "We want to be part of this community, to learn from its kindness and to give back. We're not defined by our mistakes." Jake felt the room shift. There was a palpable connection now, each person leaning in, curiosity carved into their expressions. They were no longer just observers, they were participants in a larger story. "Your stories matter, and they've shaped our vision," Jake said, emboldened. "This family embodies precisely why we need to support reintegration." Every one of us has a journey, and today we have the chance to transform how we see each other. The council sat visibly engaged, their softened expressions revealing cracks in their initial skepticism. Could these stories finally break down the walls they had built? Another council member interjected, "What happens if we grant you this request? How will you address those who still see these pasts with a hard lens?" Jake seized the moment, letting a smile spread across his face as he ventured, "We will act. We'll create mentoring programs, community safety initiatives, and foster open dialogues much like this one. This family, this community, they're ready to embrace change together." The air was electric, a collective breath held, as the mother nodded, her little girl clutching her arm tightly. "Can we help organize workshops to educate our neighbors on the journeys we've all taken? Understanding begins with conversation, does it not?" Jake pressed, looking around the room. Each face reflected a blend of uncertainty and hope, but this time a flicker of desire to listen gleamed in their eyes that he could feel momentum building as the council members whispered among themselves, discussions emanating hope, and proposals. They began to feel the weight of this vision's urgency. Just as Jake began to believe they were breaking further ground, a councilman, one who had stayed quiet, finally spoke. "We need more than just stories. We need community involvement. Commitments from your group that ensures a broader support system is in place. Are you willing to develop a plan together, us, as leaders and you as advocates?" "Yes," Jake exclaimed, surging with energy. "That's what we want. A partnership for real change. We're ready to work." Excitement rippled through the room as the crowd began to murmur in agreement. They stood together, each relinquishing a measure of skepticism they had harbored. The unknown of the future somehow didn't seem so dark anymore. As the meeting continued, the energy felt different. Council members started discussing not just objections, but possibilities. Plans merged with ideas, a proposal for workshops, community gardens, even a crime prevention task force led by locals, all tying back to their shared narrative of resilience. Jake stepped back, his heart soaring. This was the moment they had all envisioned. Unity blossoming from struggle, understanding emerging from fear. Just as the council meeting began to wrap up, Mrs. Thompson stood once more. "I've witnessed communities bring their power together. Embracing our past opens a door to a future filled with hope. This is just the beginning of our journey." With renewed energy in the room, the meeting adjourned with an embrace of collaboration that had felt unimaginable just days before. The feeling of togetherness swelled, and Jake couldn't help but smile, tears of relief brimming in his eyes. As they filtered out of the community center, Jake looked into the faces around him, neighbors, friends, new faces, everyone sharing in this victory. He realized they had started a ripple. They had broken through the rough edges of resistance, weaving a fabric of understanding and compassion. "Tomorrow, we can build something beautiful," Emily said, turning to Jake with a radiant smile. Hope ignited in her expression, echoing through him like a beacon of what lay ahead. "Tomorrow," he affirmed, leaning into possibility. "Together." As dusk settled over the town, casting its golden hues, Jake took one last look at the building where so much had changed. There stood the foundation of those dreams, stronger connections, thriving possibilities, and renewed belief in one another. He hadn't just fought for a proposal. They had fought for each other, and as they stepped into the future, Jake felt the warmth of a community awakening, a vibrant tapestry being woven, piece by piece, stitch by stitch. Hope had not only been found, it had been forged, shining brighter than he had ever imagined. As their voices faded into the evening, a familiar urge surged inside him, keep this spirit alive. This moment needed to echo, reaching far beyond their small town. The heart of their story had been told, and Jake knew it was only the beginning. You need to subscribe now to follow this journey of transformation and be part of more heartwarming stories. This is the moment to show your support. Hit that like button now and feed the algorithm. Comment below your reactions and feelings about this ending. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this incredible transformation. Join us in spreading hope. Your community matters.